What's good? I am Yish. This is Yish in your ear. Today we'll cover FL Studio 12.5. This particular version has a handful of improvements and enhancements to the FL Studio workflow. Without further ado, let's jump right in.
This is Yish in your ear.
Alright, so here's the new 12.5. As you can see on the screen, one of the main features that was added is what is known as the picker panel. This picker panel allows you to, of course, pick patterns, audio clips, and automation and drag them to the playlist editor. The picker panel allows you to rearrange patterns, and this rearranges this order in the panel function itself. So whatever you put at the top becomes the first panel, whatever you put at the bottom becomes the last panel. You're also allowed to remove patterns you don't need from here, which makes it a lot easier. For audio clips, you can remove audio clips as well. Right click, hit delete, okay? And the same thing with the automation clips. All right, if you right click on the icons, you have the option to select the unused. So let's add a couple of blank ones that are unused. If I then right click here and hit select unused, it'll select all of the patterns that are unused, and from there I can delete, clear those out. Same thing here. If you have any audio clips that you did not use in the playlist editor, you can select them by right clicking, select unused, and delete them from there. The other functions is you can sort by name and sort by color. So the other function that you can do in the pattern picker is right click on a pattern and do quick render as audio clip or render as audio clip. They both pretty much do the same. I'm not sure the difference between the two, but if you quick render, it will render out an actual audio clip of just that pattern or whatever patterns you have selected. All right, so it rendered out the kick pattern. For whatever reason, it was simply just taking too long, so I canceled it. But just to give you an idea, it created an audio clip that you can then drag to your playlist. The next thing up is we have new virtual MIDI controllers. So if you go up here to view and click on touch keyboard, you get two new options here. This one is the pads. You also get the keys. All right, so if I highlight one of my instruments here, as you can see, we can record from here. We do that by keys, or we can do that by pads. Right? No problem. Very easy. This could be useful for doing stuff by mouse on the screen. All right. Let's see. Cool. If you click on the gear icon, you get, of course, the option to switch between the two. Under the keyboard, you can do two keyboards. You can do show note labels. See these down here? Okay, you can take those off. Velocity allows the top of the key to be the low velocity, the bottom of the key to be the loudest part, okay? So that makes up for velocity pressure that you don't have on a touch screen. A couple of other options. Scroll locking, so that stops it from scrolling. Right? And then this drop down allows you to choose the root note and the size of the keys. Under pads, you get an option to modify the pad grid, 16 by 4 all the way up to 16 by 8. We know what that could be used for. Same thing with the notes and with the velocity. Top to bottom. All right. You do have the option to color the notes any color you choose. All right, that becomes useful for those folks who use that. Under here, you do have the option to assign a specific note for a specific pad. Half height roll for that one, half height roll for this one, so you can modify the height roll and the column size as you see fit. And again, this is all resizable to whatever you need. All right, so that is the virtual MIDI controllers, and again, these can be used to control your sound right off of the screen and record them. Next up, Fruity Pad controller. The Fruity Pad controller has been revamped to be vector, which means it's resizable and has a very clean interface. It also has, if you click on this gear icon, a option to show both pads, both sets of pads, which bank A and bank B, right? Or just the single pad itself. All right. Harmor has been vectorized. It's a cleaner interface now. Next, we have Direct Wave. Direct Wave has been vectorized, so it can be resized. All right. It's a lot more cleaner looking now. Doesn't look so old school. Also, we have something called the Channel Sampling Robot. So if you right click on one of your virtual instruments and go to Create Direct Wave Instrument, it will give me the option once I save. I'll click yes. All right. And what this allows you to do is to actually sample the instrument. You do get a myriad of options here to change. Velocity, we'll start with the first one, low notes and high notes. So which note range you want to work with. The maximum velocity it will sample at. The number of layers for the velocity. The number of keys per zone. All right. Now, if you look over here, you'll see that the estimated maximum file size will be 3.74 gigabytes. That's because I'm sampling every key. If you modify this, you'll get a smaller file size based on the number of key zones that you want to sample. You can also change to stop on silence or stop on the maximum length, which then can be modified here based on bars, beats, or seconds. And the release can be modified based on bars, beats, and seconds. Down here, you have your typical quality controls that come with FL Studio. You also have a function to modify loops, where you can essentially create a loop point for each one of the samples that the sample robot samples. And then down here under miscellaneous, you have enabled the master effects, enable the insert effects. Monolithic file means that it will create one file with all of the WAV files stored in it, sort of like a zip file. You won't have access to the independent WAV files if you select this function. And then, of course, you can open this in Direct Wave as soon as it's done with its rendering. So let's test this out. So I'll bring this down to 4, and we'll just do 1 for right now. Actually, let's see. Let's try 28.69 megabytes. So we got 4 keys, and I'll minimize how many we sample here. Okay, so we create ourselves. We'll raise it a little bit. Let's see what the quality this thing does. All right, so we got a 35 megabyte file. I'm going to hit start and see how this thing sounds. All right, so as you can see, it's sampling the various keys. All right, it's creating the various velocity layers, which in this case is 11 for each key that we are sampling. So it's creating this 35 megabyte file that's monolithic. It also has the master effects on it as well. So there you go. Now what it created was again a direct wave instrument. So now if I play this, there you go. Now it does not have the release factor. So if I click on it there, so you will have to do some tweaking within the instrument itself. So if I go down here, what I'm looking for is the amplitude envelope. believe that is here. There we go. And there you go. So we have our instrument sampled. So now let's see what that sounds like from the original. Now I notice it didn't really capture the reverb, and that's okay. I don't think it's necessary to capture such things. You can't capture it in that way anyway. So when you're sampling your virtual instruments to utilize them to save space, because that's essentially what this means to me. If I want to sample just the area that I'm using, I can save space and I can save CPU processing and possibly RAM if it's if it's something simple, and I think that's the whole purpose of this. The next thing is Patcher. Patcher has been enhanced with more functions on it, more control types. You can also launch the control creator from Patcher. All right, and that allows you to create controls, based off of the different functions that you have here in the control creator. And then you can take those controls and drag and drop them right onto the actual Patcher plugin. One of the other things that they added with Patcher now is it is multi-thread capable for the plugins that are on this particular Patcher. If I had some loaded, they now take advantage of multi-thread or multi-CPU processors. The piano roll and the playlist editor have a new function that improves productivity, and that is called the mini piano roll preview. That's this thing here. If you notice, these notes here are these notes there normally, and prior to this particular version, that looked just like that. Same thing here. All right, you can see what area you have patterns in. Definitely a good productivity enhancer. This here is a function that I am so glad to have. You have the option to close all plugin windows, but it closes only the plugin windows. Now I have gotten to the habit of hitting F9 and F5. So if I hit F12, right? Boom, it closes all the windows. So you hit F9 and F5. I've gotten real handy with that. But now this new shortcut allows you to close just the plugins. So what you would do is click Alt F12 and it will close out all of the plugins that are open and keeping the other windows available. So I'm going to have to retrain myself with that function. Last but not least, under Tools, Macros, you have lock all playlist tracks to content and unlock all playlist tracks from content. And of course that allows you to lock whatever is on that particular channel, all right, to just that particular track. Now, this here, be careful, because if you click also resize all playlist tracks to their minimum size, it will pretty much lock everything to that minimum size, and the only way that you can modify it is one by one. So I'm going to tell it no, all right, because I still want to maintain doing this here. I just want to lock the patterns to that function. Otherwise it would actually bring it down to this size and you cannot resize that. So that's it. That has been my review of FL Studio 12.59. As always, please subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a dislike. I appreciate them all. And I do try to answer as many of the comments as I possibly can fit in my short time here on the planet. All right. This has been Yish in your ear. Stay tuned.